Striped bass are incredible creatures. They are predators like no other, which make them very fun to fly fish for, but can also be challenging because they do eat so many different things. So you have to find what they're eating specifically that day. So the migration is the spring and the fall. So they start down the Chesapeake in the spring and they migrate all the way up to the north following the water temps. They spawn in the Hudson, Chesapeake, Delaware River, a few others as well. And then some of them will travel all the way up to Maine or Canada, and some will come back to the same place every year. I live out in Martha's Vineyard. We have stripers that migrate to here every year and stay here for the entire season. And then in the fall, as it starts to get cool again, they follow those warm water temps back down south. As a result of climate change, our season is a lot longer. Up in the Northeast starts April, May. I've been guiding into mid-November some years because the fish are still making their way down south because the waters are just that much warmer. When they spawn up in the rivers, like I said. And to me, it's pretty amazing that they are actually even striped bass and that they exist, because they'll lay up to 1 million eggs, and 1 in 8,000 will survive that first year. The incubation period is 24 to 48 hours. They're really, really susceptible to runoff, silt, pH levels, acidity levels. So many of them die off in that first 2-day period. After that, they're about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, and they're just clear little babies. And they have to learn to basically be predators, because if they don't, they'll get eaten very, very quickly. So they migrate up north following the water temps. Ideally, you're fishing for stripers between 60 and 70. That's their favorite temperature. On the island, for example, we typically will not catch fish if it's under 55 degrees. So I'll be guiding, it's 53 degrees, 54 degrees. They're really, really hard to get. The day it turns 55, the season's on. A lot of that has to do with the bait migration as well. So I know guides that are down in New York and New Jersey, and they're catching fish in 45-degree weather, and that's because the bait is there. So the fish are following the bait and the water temps up the seaboard. Figure out where the stripers are going to be next. I'm just really following the water temps. And as the water gets warmer and as the water gets cooler, that's where they'll be. Stripers are incredibly aggressive. They get angry as well, and they're pretty smart. So if there is food, they're eating it. They're not incredibly picky. They're not that snooty unless they're on the flats. They get a whole new persona. But if there's squid in the water, they're on the surface crushing the squid, and it's such a visual, beautiful sight. It's so cool and so magical. They're really smart in the way that they know how to expel energy when they need to, like charging bait, and they fight super, super, super hard. They have these big head shakes, but they're smart where they're hanging out in different water columns, they're following different tides, they're hiding behind rocks or in eddies. It makes it very fun to fish for because you can fish for them in so many different ways. So figuring out where they are and what bait they're eating that day is key. And a lot of that has to do with the time of season, because certain bait is in the water at certain times. The general rule of thumb for fishing with stripers is a moving tide. So slack tide, when it's either dead high or dead low, is typically not the best time to fish for them. So if I'm going to go fish a beach or a flat or whatever, I'm looking at the tide table and I'm either getting there, right before or right after slack. And so you can find that online. Just look up where you are, tide charts, tide tables. That's not to be said that you can't catch fish during slack. Some of the biggest fish I've caught are during slack, and I think they're smart. They don't want to work as hard. There's no current, but the bait fish isn't moving as much, so it kind of turns off that predator instinct.